Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 4. Pretty sure. We are heading into a new module this week. So I wanted to kind of touch base with everybody and check in and see how everyone's doing. I've really been enjoying reading the reading responses over on the discussion board. So thank you guys for your great participation. You guys are awesome. Um, it's always entertaining for me to read what other people think about some of these works that I've, had in my life for a very long time. It's always nice to see fresh perspectives on those kinds of things. So we are entering a new era, and as you know by now, our um, we move historically through African American humanities, starting back in the slavery era. So we're getting more and more contemporary as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and open the course, and let's take a look at what's happening this week. This module is set up very much the same as the last module in that it is a 2-week long one. So we are, of course, starting here with the Civil War, Emancipation, and Reconstruction era. And you will have a quiz to complete this week and then a reading response to complete next week. Now, the other thing that I know that many of you have started to work on, which is awesome, is the first research paper. Now, it is not due until week 7. So if you have not started it yet, it's not a national emergency, but it is probably a good idea to be thinking about what you want to write about. And that way also, of course, if you have any questions, you can certainly check in with me. Now, you should be writing about something from the first half of the course. So essentially there's 2 research papers. The first one should deal with something in slavery, Civil War, or even into the Harlem Renaissance. I would probably focus on one of the first 2 modules simply because that way you can get a head start on it if you're not finished reading the materials from the Harlem Renaissance before that paper is due, because the paper is due in the middle of that module. And my biggest piece of advice is to pick the work first. So whether it is a specific reading or a specific person, it's a little tricky sometimes in the slavery era and these early days in African American history, because people weren't writing novels yet or weren't writing plays yet. And sometimes it's a little easier when we get to the second half, where you can choose, say, a poem by Maya Angelou as opposed to something from the olden days, so to speak. However, plenty of poems by Phillis Wheatley, of course. And we will have some additional writers here in the Civil War, Emancipation, and Reconstruction era that can make for good research papers. But in the history aspect of African American humanities, sometimes it is easier if you focus on a person rather than just a specific piece of reading. So, for example, many of you wrote about Sojourner Truth in your reading response, first one. So, of course, we read the speech that she gave, but you can also research other aspects of Truth's life and Truth's speeches and so on and so forth. So I found it most helpful when I was writing research papers for classes like this to pick the person or the work first and then start doing some preliminary research to see kind of what sort of things come up. I am happy to talk through any particular potential topics with you. Feel free to shoot me a message in the inbox if you have questions. You can also, of course, post questions on the Q&A discussion board that you think other people might benefit from as well. I did also give you some additional materials under this particular announcement, writing research papers in the humanities. So there's a bunch of information here as well. So be looking at that, be thinking about it. And then, of course, that way, if you have questions, we can get those answered right away. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at the new module. Like I said, we are in week 4. Week 4 and 5 is devoted to the Civil War, Emancipation, and Reconstruction. If we look at the resources and assessments page, I do want to apologize for whatever confusion was going on with the patent book. It does seem to be working now. I think there was just some kind of weird glitch with the library, but if you have any trouble with the library materials ever, do contact the library directly. They will be able to troubleshoot that stuff probably more quickly than I will, because all I can do is look it up and see if it's working or not working, kind of like you guys are. So please do not hesitate to contact a librarian if you ever run into any problems with the library stuff. I have also double checked, and I believe that all the links in this particular module are working. But again, if you run into something that doesn't, please do let me know. All right, so we have another chapter, of course, about the art world, and then we are getting into some of the really what we consider to be foundational thinkers in African American history, namely Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. Both of those figures continue to be really important, and their take on how African Americans should fight for their rights and grab their rights continues to kind of be mirrored in later thinkers as well, such as Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and so on and so forth. So these guys really are a major foundation in the Civil War into the Reconstruction era. So please do spend some time with Washington and Du Bois. They are great potential topics for your upcoming research paper as well, specifically comparing and contrasting the ways that they look at African American rights and how to best accomplish making those better. So we have, in addition, a thinker who is a journalist named Ida B. Wells Barnett. Again, this is just one of the things she wrote. She's got a lot of things. So if you're interested in her, she might be another really powerful figure to focus on in the paper. And then we get into some of our first, what we might call creative writing. Short fiction, short stories. Charles Chestnut, writing during this era. The Guford Grapevine and Poe Sandy are two of his stories. There are more, of course, but you're going to read those two. And then James Weldon Johnson's book is called The Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man, and it is fictional. Even though it says it's an autobiography, it is a work of fiction. So we would consider it a novel. So there are plenty of things to focus on in both of those, but those are kind of our first foray into creative writing that is not poetry, if that makes sense, because we did have poetry in the early era. We, of course, have continued information about the music world, and there's a lot of music that people are interested in from all the eras, and specifically the evolution. Somebody had asked me the other day about writing about blues music. Blues and jazz, of course, really are something that we don't see fully in the culture until the early 20th century. But definitely be thinking about music. You may want to use music for the second research paper, because of course, then you would have all of the contemporary musicians to focus on as well if you choose to do that. So anyway, music is awesome. I love music. I'm a big fan myself. And so I do always find those things fascinating. So as usual, you've got the two quote unquote assignments, the reading quiz, which is due June 2nd. So this Sunday, and then the reading/activity response. Everybody did a great job on those. Make sure that you are including at least 3 things, that you are including some direct quotations so that we have some specifics from the readings, but you guys were fabulous on the first set. So I do not anticipate those being any less fabulous in the next set. So I'm mostly looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the stuff that you're encountering. So Feel free, like I said, anytime to reach out. Remember that we do have a discussion board for public questions, the Q&A board. Nobody's posted to it yet. You are welcome to use this. And especially if it's a question about just what to do in the class or something along the lines of how, to tackle a research paper, because other people are going to benefit from those answers as well. Remember that with the discussion boards, you can subscribe to them. And that way you get alerted if somebody posts something. I don't necessarily suggest subscribing to the others, because you'll get a whole bunch of notifications. But the Q&A one is a good one to do, because of me posting answers, your fellow classmates posting questions. And while I'm staring at this, I'm going to fix this because it's going to drive me crazy. As you guys know, some of the materials are the same materials as we use in Lit. So that's one reason why sometimes you'll see that I have not updated things, and I apologize, because I do try to update things as much as humanly possible. Anyway, we caught it now, so that's good. Anyway, if you've got any questions this week, feel free to reach out. Don't forget, the quickest way to get in touch with me really is to just shoot me an inbox. I answer emails pretty much 24/7. Not really, but close. And I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. So I hope everybody had a great long weekend, and enjoy week 4. Talk to you guys soon. Take care, everybody.